Вітаю, друзі! Запрошую послухати казку. Казки дають важливий і цікавий для дорослих і для дітей. Дякую Сергію Сидорєву, дякую Мартусі за те, що вони ведуть цей прекрасний проєкт читання для перемагання. І запрошую послухати одну з казок китайських от з цієї чудової книжки. Дякую нашим Збройним силам, дякую всім, хто захищає, і хай оці приклади перемоги, віри в здоровий глузд, добро надихають нас, додають сили. Слава Україні, героям слава! Читаємо. Feng Mian, the head of the family. Many years ago, in the Chinese countryside, there lived an old farmer and his 3 sons. 2 of his sons were married, and the family all lived together in the one tiny, ramshackle house. The farmer's daughters-in-law, Yingye and Rushi, came from a lovely and beautiful village quite a long way away. They had been best friends since they were babies, and while they both loved the new family and they're happy to have each other, they often felt lonely and homesick to their own parents and siblings. According to the custom, they had to ask their father-in-law's permission every time they wanted to visit their old homes. Unfortunately, they asked so often, and the farmer began to get very annoyed. Eventually, he decided to find a way to put an end to their pleading once and for all. "You are always asking me to let you go off to visit your parents," he told them. "And you think I am being hard-hearted when I say no. So, I'll let you go on one condition. That you each bring me back something precious." "Of course, father," they both answered quickly. "Very well," he said. "I want one of you to bring me some fire, but it must be wrapped in paper. The other must bring me some wind, also in paper. If you can't get this for me, you can go to villages, but you must never come back here." Without really thinking, the women nodded their heads in agreement. They excitedly packed their things and almost immediately set off for their village, before their father-in-law could change his mind. It was a long walk, but the women chatted happily, and all the things they would do when they reached home. They had walked a long way. Then disaster struck, and the strap of young Lee sandals broke. As they sat by the roadside trying to mend it, they suddenly realized that they had agreed to do. There was no way they could bring back fire and wind wrapped in paper. But then they would never see their beloved husbands again. In despair, the woman began to cry. Sometime later, a young girl came by riding a water buffalo. Seeing their sad faces, she stopped and asked if she could help. "No one can help us," they wailed. "Our father-in-law has set us an impossible task." The girl insisted on hearing their story, and when they'd finished, she smiled. "I can definitely help you," she told them. "If you come home with me, I'll show you how to find what he wants." So off the daughters-in-law went to the girl's home. There she showed them a paper lantern with a candle inside and a paper fan. When you light the candle, you'll have fire wrapped in paper, the girl said. And when you wave the fan, you'll have the wind in paper. Oh, thank you, the daughters-in-law cried. How can we ever thank you enough? We are so happy we meet you. Then they went cheerfully on their way to the village. After a happy stay, they bought a paper, a lantern and fan and headed back home to their husbands. The old farmer was surprised to see them coming down the road. I told you not to come back, he scolded, unless you brought the things I asked for. But father, they told him, we got them, both of them. They handed him the lantern and fan. How did you solve the riddle? He cried in astonishment. Tell me. They told him about meeting the girl on the water buffalo and how she had helped them. She sounds like a very clever young woman, the farmer said to himself. She might just make an excellent match for my youngest son. So he sent a message to the girl's family to see if they would agree. And then everything has been arranged. The wedding celebration took place. However, this was not to be no ordinary marriage. Because my youngest son's wife is so clever and wise, the farmer announced to his older two sons and their wives. She will now be the head of the family. You must ask her advice in everything and do as she says. For the time, this was highly unusual. The head of the family was usually a man. But the new head of the family, whose name was Feng Mian, quickly took matters into her own hands. He told the farmer and his sons that they must never go to or from work empty-handed. Each morning they were to take fertilizer to the fields and in the evening bring back any sticks they could find. By doing this, the family soon had fields full of crops and they were never short of firewood to burn. And then there were only a few sticks of wood left to collect. Feng Mian told them to bring back stones for building, which they piled up outside the house. One day, a gem dealer rode by there, spotted the pile of stones. When he stopped to take a closer look at them, he noticed that one of the stones contained a large lump of precious jade. At once he went to the house and asked for the head of the family. Imagine his surprise when Feng Mian replied. He was even more surprised at her sharp bargaining skills and left, agreeing to pay a high price for the stones. Of course, he said nothing about the jade, but promised to come back in a few days to pay. Feng Mian guessed at once that the gem dealer was trying to shirt them. She told their father-in-law to invite him for dinner and draw him into a conversation about precious stones and how to identify them. Feng Mian listened from behind a curtain. When she went outside, found the jade and hid in the house. The next day, the gem dealer returned with the money and saw to his horror that he'd been found out. Feng Mian agreed to sell the jade to him if he also bought the pile of stones, but only for a much higher price than he had offered before. The money she earned made the family rich, and they built a grand new house with a scene of a gate that read "No Sorrow." A few days later, a government minister came by. He stopped when he saw the scene of the gate. "That's a very boastful scene," he said angrily. "Every family has its fair share of sorrow. I shall fine you for your arrogance." "We have a happy home and family," replied Feng Mian politely. "The scene is simply to ask visitors to leave their sorrow behind at the gate." "Even so," raged the minister, "in punishment you can wear me a piece of cloth as long as this road." "Of course, Your Excellency," said Feng Mian, with a deep, respectful bow. "Just as soon as you have found both ends of the road and told me the exact length." The minister realized that he'd been outwitted, and it made him even angrier. "And you can also bring me as much oil as there is water in the sea," he hummed. "With pleasure, Your Excellency," said Feng Mian with an even deeper bow. "Just as soon as you have measured the ocean and told me the exact numbers of gallons you need." "If you are so clever," the minister replied, "perhaps you can read my mind. If you can, I'll drop the fines. See this songbird perched on my finger? Now, tell me this. Am I planning to squeeze it to death or let it fly away safely?" "Your Excellency," answered Feng Mian, "you are an important minister, and I'm just a humble girl. If you don't know more than me, you shouldn't find me at all. Now, I have a question for you. I am standing with one foot on one side of the door and the other on the other side. Tell me, am I planning to come in or go out? If you can't read my mind, you shouldn't ask me to read yours." Of course, she knew that the minister wouldn't be able to guess, and he was forced to admit that she was right. Tooting loudly, he took his leave, and the family, with its wise and clever head, lived without sorrow for many years to come. Ось і казочці кінець, а хто слухав, молодець. Дякуємо авторці цих казок, яка зібрала казки з різних країн. Дякуємо всім, хто вірить, наближає нашу перемогу. Будьмо, перемагаємо, єднаємося.